Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, yes, we are finally going to be covering all of the Season of Strife 3, SoS3 for short, / Dragonfall KvK season for all the matchups that have just been officially announced for who is going to be facing who. I got some deep breakdowns. We got some nice visuals to show you coming up. And then beyond this, we're going to do individual breakdowns as well for each of the KvK groups on their Zone 2 openings and who's going to be fighting who and how those matchups look and how that could potentially impact how Final Zone might play out. There's a lot that I got in store for you. As always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. Also, keep in mind, right, the data that we will be showing you, big shout out and presented by my boy Rich with the data bot that we now have, which is making all of our lives easier. If you do ever want to go get more information on that, link to the bot Discord in the pinned comment description down below. Okay. Let's go ahead and show you guys. First, this is a preview, right, of what we're going to be showing you, and over on the spreadsheet here in a moment. I do just want to read a couple pieces of information here, right? So, region, right? We know that there's 4 affiliated regions. Realms participating are split up in class and camp. Camp, season, this is a little new. Season teams will be assigned 1 to 2 camps. Players can move through passes that belong to any alliance in their camp. Even though we probably knew that, it's just nice to read it. Realms in the same camp can work together to complete their camp season achievements and receive camp rewards. You can also view other matchups. So you could see here that it looks like there's 9, I believe, that you could see, and it kind of gives you a breakdown. It actually tells you like where each one is. So it tells you like the sword, position. If I want to go view another one, I can click view and it'll take me there. We can also go introduction. And again, this is just kind of a reiteration of everything we already know that has been provided to us along with the map. Okay, with all of those goods out of the way, let's get to the big mama jama that you all are here for. So, after going through all the kingdoms, there are 2 that I did double check, which is 45. Actually, I checked all of the ones that were not for 45 to 18, and we plugged in the fillers. So there were 6 kingdoms here that did not have a team. 4 of those got filled and plugged in to existing teams that you'll be seeing in a little bit. But these 2 are left out. So these 2, even though they don't have a team, but they registered, are, I guess, missing out, unfortunately. So sad faces and apology shout-outs to you guys. With that in mind, let's go ahead and get into the first one. So here we have 29. We'll just kind of go low number here, right? 29 and 2. However, that equates to, right, this is the SGW OTA. So we have SGW, WAN, and UST, and 377S versus O2-A, REO6, LSL, SIG, Guns, and 50W. So for, again, simple terms, we will be using just the first alliance tag of each of these teams, just so I don't have to repeat that all the time. And then on top of that, let me break down the data so you have an understanding of what we're going to be showing you. Everything here for power, kills, deads, heals is based on the top 300 player power. This means that we take the top 300 players, we add their stuff together, and we get a total. This data was taken on the 7th of December, right? So this is about 6 days ago. Now, there probably isn't going to be a massive upswing in number improvements until we get to Brink of War. And for those wondering, yes, once we get to Brink of War, and Brink of War is finished and concluded, going through the power-up phase and just as ended, I will do another one of these either after that and or before Zone 2 opens for the fighting. So we could see, because again, things could drastically change. Some could catch up, some could widen, we'll see. And then the 60, 80, to up to 200, this is, even though I've shortened it just so it could all fit onto one page, 60 is 60 to 80 mil players, 80 is 80 to 100, so on and so forth. Total is the total number of players from 60 to 200 plus, and then 100 mil plus is probably self-explanatory. Anyone from column J on up, we just add those up together. Okay, now let's get to all the breakdowns that we got all the meaningful disclaimers out of the way. When we look at this matchup between SGW and the OTA team, differentials are going to be in the middle, and this is something that I added in this time around so you could see what the plus minuses are, and then we gave the side that has the lead yellow. So basically, the differential applies to the yellow tile, or I should say cell. So in this case, you could see here that there's a 20.93 billion power differential between the OTA group and the SGW group, more than double. And obviously then it goes in favor of the yellow side. Similar thing here for kills. 19.66 billion power differential that goes in favor of the SGW team. Dead's 151 mil differential that goes in favor of the SGW team. 32.94 billion heals goes in favor of them. You just a 0.09 kill to heal differential, so a little bit smaller, but again, it goes in favor of them. 23 more 60 mil players, 60 mil plus. 21 more 80 mil plus players. 8 more 100 mil plus players, and then none of them have anyone over 125 mil. But you could see the totals here, 52 more, right, T5 players. Then you have 11 to 0 on 100 mil plus. So again, to me, it just seems very overwhelming. This is probably one of the most disappointing matchup. But again, this is what you get when you run this kind of a system and you don't allow for enough kingdoms. Now, bear in mind, this is the first time it's being ran. The way that you solve this is you add more kingdoms to the same kingdom KvK pool that could get matched up with each other, right? Remember, there's only 99 kingdoms here that registered, and not all of them, right? So we could show you that. Here, just to keep things in perspective, 87 kingdoms registered. However, out of the kingdoms that registered, only 85 of them, now, well, keep in mind, some more could have registered, but we have 87. For example, some of them that did not register, apparently they were able to register either after the registration period or they might have just done it at the very last minute, even though I did go through all the kingdoms in the pool right after registration finished. Something happened. Someone told me that like someone changed or something. So again, keep in mind that the max amount here could have been 99 based on who had king control in the kingdom, meaning they captured the flame dragon, and that allows for them to register or not in a KvK storyline. So you have up to 99. We need to increase that, and you need to add more kingdoms from either that are coming out of Season of Strife and then into the pre-war phase, so you have a larger amount, right? When you have that happen, you reduce the likelihood that you're going to have very heavy mismatches like this. Let's continue. Let's get to the next matchup. This is going to be, and again, we're doing the C's and D's, and then we'll get to the A's and B's here. This is BBO, Horde, DK, Geo, Cent, and Hogwarts, or HOGW, versus FVP, VH, Chubb, DAU, RR, 84, PTK, G. And that's 71, 74, 87, 89, 240, 277, versus 1, 34, 37, 44, 34, and 36. Okay, here we go with it. And I also want to point out, I was spot on with what I thought was what I wanted to see them do on the KvK map, which is do crisscross applesauce, right? Basically do an X or a T on how they're doing it. Some people thought it would be west-east or north-south, and I proposed that as well. But the one I thought could work the most was doing the X. So here we go on the differentials. We got 3.88 billion power, so still very close, but in favor of the FVP team. Kills 42.49 billion in favor of the BBO team, 2.54 billion differential. Deads 36.52 million, so again, not that much, but in favor of the BBO side. Heals 71.56 billion, that's a 0.57 billion differential in favor of the FVP team. And then we got a 0.04 differential in favor of the BBO team at 0.6. 60 mil plus players, there's only a 2 differential here that goes in favor of FVP. 80 mil plus, a little bit wider, 21 more players on the BBO side. 9 more 100 mil plus players on the BBO side. And then we get 2 more on the BBO side for 125, even on 150, 1 more on 200 mil plus, and then you get to see 31 more T5s on the BBO side, and then 12 more 100 mil pluses on their side as well. So we'll see how that plays out, right? But again, this isn't awful, but there is, again, a clear advantage. We'll see if anything's made up in Brink of War. Let's get to the next matchup, which is RR. Maybe I'll just read the totals and you guys can take a look at the stuff so we can maybe go through it. I'll just read the team names so that way we're not spending too long on these. These are starting map positions. Here we got RR, Gray, Bomb, CFRA, TDS, DTF versus MT, VP22, Mojo, KL7, K282, and Meat. Big ones here, we got power differential, 6.76 billion in favor of MT. We got 19.69 billion differential in favor of MT. 36.15 million differential for Deads in favor of MT, 21.47 billion in favor of MT, and there's only a 0.03 differential kill steal, so very close. Then we look at totals. You have 27 more players here, T5 players on the RR side, and then they're dead even on 100 mil plus. So this, to me, very much feels like a fairish matchup. Like, even though there is, right, a 6.7, 6.8 billion power differential, when you look at the T5s, when you look at the 100 mil pluses, like, it looks pretty close. Again, there are some differences, not only on power, like you see power kills and deads, right, and heals go in favor of MT. But I think the fact that the RR side has more T5s, maybe, again, I just feel like this is a fairer matchup than what maybe some of the other ones could be. So I'm happy to see this. Next one. Also, I want to know, who do you think is going to win on each of these matchups? Okay, next one we have is SLR, SVR, OGC, L2NV, SHP, ampersand, WT, MFD versus MFD, Riven, LASI, MBH, Lock, and JKL. Here, we have power differentials 8.38 billion. That's in favor of the MFD side. 16.23 billion for kills in favor of the MFD side. 73.87 million deads in favor of the MFD side. 13.99 billion heals in favor of MFD, and they have a 0.06 differential in favor for their kills to heal. Now, let's look at totals. 44 more T5s from 60 mil plus in favor of SLR. They also have 4 more 100 mil pluses. But again, this is, I still think, somewhat close. It's kind of similar to the matchup we just saw, where one side had more totals and some more 100 mil pluses, or even-ish, but then the other side has a little bit more power, more kills, deads, heals, right? Part of me feels like this could actually be closer. Like, I would argue maybe as close of a matchup as the previous one. So I'm not mad at this one. This actually is, I think this has the potential to be good. Next one. Let's take a look at the last C and D group, which is INWA, or INW4 mod, FU, not really, ANCS, RNW, Sura, versus 54 UDF, AVIC, 3TL, NXW, and MAD. Here we go. These are map positions. Differentials 0.7 billion power. So close. 18 billion power differential on kills in favor of INWA. We have our INW4, 0.6 million dead, so super close in favor of INW4, 8.53 billion heals, still pretty close, but in favor of INW4. We have the 0.15 in favor of INW4, almost breaking even there. We look at total T5s, that's 15 more on the 54 side, but there's 19 more 100 mil pluses on the INW4 side. However, there's a little bit more power on 54. So they have a little bit more power, even though it's a tiny bit, right? Probably not too impactful. And then you have 15 more total T5s, 19 more 100 mil pluses. I obviously I outweigh the 19 million 100 mil pluses more than the 15 total T5s. So this feels like there's a little bit more of an edge on the INW4 team, but this is still pretty close, right? This isn't like that wide of I would say, a heavy margin, even if there is just a clear differential or, slight advantage on one side, it appears. Let's go to this. But again, and I want to point out, like everything, it all comes down to activity. Let's get to the first A's and B's here. So now we have RKT, Laws, FG, Dawn versus FSK, AXT, HOUW, and SJT. Differentials, 2.71 billion, very close, that I love to see, but in favor of RKT side. 1.49 billion kill differential, but very close in favor of the RKT side. 27.26 million deads, very close in favor of RKT again. 14.31 billion, still a small number, but in favor of RKT. Kills to heals, 0.09. Differential in favor of FSK side. 65 more, or sorry, let's get to the totals. 122 more T5 players on the RKT side. 19 more 100 mil players on the RKT side. I argue that there is a clearer advantage here on the RKT side versus FSK, but again, it will also be coming down to zone matchups that will play a factor in impact, and that's again hoping that people will fight in zone 2 and not just wait to the final zone. That is probably a whole conversation for itself that we might pay attention to. Would love to know what you guys think on this one. Let's go to the next matchup. All right, we got 3 more. Gen, NTS, MM, RFF versus TC, POTC, WTF, and NF57. Power, 1.79 billion differential in favor of TC. 36.52 billion kill differential. That's a smallish, nice size, though, in favor of Gen. 8.8 million deads, very close here, but in favor of Gen. 4.53 billion heals, small number, but in favor of TC. We got 0.3, that's in favor of Gen, right? The first positive that we've seen so far for Kill Hill. And then we look at total T5s, 60 more in favor of TC, but there's 38 more 100 mil pluses in favor of Gen. A little bit more power that goes towards TC, and a little bit more healing that we have. So, and again, the kills and deads are still pretty close. This, I still think, is a fairish matchup. Again, I'm not going to say it's the most fair, but it's also not the worst. Absolutely. So I am very much looking forward to how this plays out, and it could be that much more even when we look at zone matchups too as well. But I still like what I'm seeing here, because that's one of the things we have to talk about, is that if you have more 100 mil plus players, the other side, we want to see more total power and more total T5s. Now, is 60, right? I would maybe like to see a little bit more total here. I don't know if I want to say double, but I would almost be more comfortable to see like 90, right? Ish. And on the power side, I'd almost like to see maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 billion more in favor, just because to me it feels like that might match up a little bit more. But I still think this is a decently fair matchup. Okay, let's go to the second to the last one, right? So now we have the big two here, if you will. So we got BDO, DBB, SSG, WGL versus NA, LAW, LTS, and YBD. Power, 5.14 billion differential on... in favor of the BDO side, right? So it's decent, but it's small. Kills, 29.93 billion differential in favor of the BDO team. 287.73 million deads, that's big, in favor of the BDO team. 14.98 billion differential in favor of the BDO team for heals. And then we get 0.09, but both are over 1, right? So both have kind of overhit that 500 mark where they're positive for Kill Hill. And then we look at what I think is probably the most important stat, if we had to look at a couple of them, before we get to other ones down our priority list, is total T5s, 77 more, 60 mil plus players in favor of the BDO side, and then 82 more 100 mil pluses in favor of the BDO side. I mean, that's almost 50% more than the NA team. So I think this matchup, unfortunately, has a little bit more advantage going towards the BDO team. However, keep in mind, this is not the matchup that I would have proposed, right? The one I predicted for BDO, which was them going up against RKT. And the reason why was because the total, even though, and this was because of the fact that the numbers here were a little bit closer, right? When we looked at the fact that BDO had more power, they let in more deads, they let in more heals, they had more 60 mil pluses, at least right there, right? But then obviously you see the totals, right? It's just, even though, yeah, you could argue that the advantage would still be here on the RK team, RK Echo, GG, and RAC team, it's still closer, in my opinion, than what the actual matchup is here. Now, keep in mind, this is just off fighting power. This is not taking into account all of the factors that the COD team uses, which is active players on the map, total amount of T5 players, total amount of T5 troops, and then total power for the kingdom. Those 3 or 4 that I mentioned. We specifically went off just kind of fighting or more punching power that we looked at. So it is a little bit different, right? Just to, again, put a little asterisk there. Now let's look at the number one group, which is, well, I don't know if I say the number one group. This group I think is, 166.5? And this is 164. Yeah, so these are like, they're within about a billion power differential if you're talking total power in the groups. But this is the group, the next one here. We have RK, Echo, GG, RAC versus Kong, EIS, BXS, PTW. I mean, again, these two top groups, I mean, almost all the AB groups I think are awesome. Even a lot of the CDs are pretty evenly matched. Okay, we have a 0.16 billion power differential. I mean, it does not get any closer than that. But in favor of RK, 37.41 billion kills. Smallish number. It's not that big. It's not really that tiny. But again, in favor of RK. 17.69 million deads. This is very close. In favor of RK. 6.06 billion heals. Very close number. So margin goes over to RK. 0.19 differential for kills heals. But again, both of them are over 1. Then we get to totals. 31 more total 60 mil pluses in favor of Kong, 67 more 100 mil pluses in favor of RK. That's where we're at right now. So they have a little bit more power, but again, I don't factor that too much. So to me, I would still argue that there's a little bit more of an advantage on the RK side because I'd like to see more total 60 mil pluses and lower 100 mil pluses to kind of offset a bit. But again, like anything, it'll all come down to activity. In the end, who's going to show up, who's going to be there. Now, the matchup I proposed for this one was here, where we had Kong, and the reason why is because, again, even though, what was this, 30, this is like, what, 70, was this 31, 68, 100 mil pluses here, and then we had, oh god, this is like 100, oh geez, 160, 156 T5s on that. Let me see, maybe this is actually better then. I mean, if you're thinking just about overalls, because we have 3167 on the differential. Okay, so maybe this actually is, I mean, again, if you're going off of putting them in the best position, right, where maybe you don't, for example, instead of having one matchup that is a lot more fair and then one that's less fair than it could have been, you sacrifice one matchup to make it still fair-ish, but then the second matchup is not as bad, right? So I kind of understand what they did here when we look at the numbers. So yeah, I mean, again, would I still have liked to seen that matchup as the one we talked about? Absolutely, because I think that would have been more fair than what we're seeing here between RK and Kong. But again, it would have made the second matchup worse. So I understand that. So yeah, I mean, again, this is one of the, I don't know if I even want to call it a downside. It's just one of the, this is what it is kind of a situation when you have teams that are forming. The fact is that you just need more teams. That's really what this comes down to. I think they will fine-tune this more. I think there's two things that I think will improve the system over time. One, adding more kingdoms to the pre-war kingdom pool from Season of Strife, so they're lining up timelines more, so that way you can have more overall teams, which means more overall teams will hopefully equate to fairer matchups. And then two, potentially putting power caps, team power caps, on how much power can join. Because I think that may also factor to having more. But first and foremost, before maybe trying that, I just want to see more kingdoms get added so we can have more overall teams in hopes that maybe addresses some of the power differentials that we're seeing, or stat differentials. However, with all that being said, that is going to do it for us today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And if you'd like for me to cover anything else specifically that I haven't already mentioned we will be doing, let me know in the comments down below. If you'd like to see any other stat lines, I think we might eventually add merits to this. I did talk to Rich, and so I think he's going to be trying to pull that, but doing it for the registered kingdom, so we might be able to add that in when we kind of talk about, when we do like more of a PvP data dive for what the Zone 2 matchups will look like for each of the KvK groups, or at least as many as I can cover. So that you might have that to look forward to. However, that's going to do it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What matchup are you most excited for? And who do you think is going to win each matchup? I'd love to hear and can't wait to read. Until next time, we'll catch you later.